is ticking for Illinoisans to get their assault weapons registered. As of January 1st, all assault weapons, assault weapon attachments, and .50 caliber rifles purchased before this year must be registered with the state. Today, Illinois State Police held a public hearing in Springfield, and our WGEM Illinois Capitol Bureau Chief Max Cotton was there and joins us live in Springfield with more. Max?
Hey, well, good evening, Daniel. And so far, only 0.1% of all the 2.5 million nearly FOID card holders in the state have registered an assault weapon since the registration opened October 1st. That's according to the latest data from ISP. And, well, today's hearing, there is a lot of confusion about exactly what is an assault weapon under the new law as Illinois State Police tries to work out those regulations ahead of the December 31st deadline.
There are a lot of people who do not realize that a firearm they've had in their possession for many, many years may now potentially make them a felon next year if they don't register it.
Though the first offense for failing to register is a Class A misdemeanor, all subsequent offenses are felonies. The Illinois Federation for Outdoor Resources represents hunters and sportsmen throughout the state. Its leaders fear many of its members may soon become accidental felons.
A semi-automatic shotgun with more than 5 rounds capacity is now considered an assault weapon. Well, is that the standard capacity listed for that shotgun, or is it if the shotgun can fit so many shells?
Witkowski says the rules in the Protecting Illinois Communities Act are too vague, and many lawful gun owners don't realize they may have to register their weapons, especially when it comes to capacities on shotguns.
A great number of semi-automatic shotguns, which are commonly used for hunting and sporting purposes, are now considered so-called assault weapons.
He also has concern about how weapon attachments are going to be regulated under the new law. However, with so few FOID card holders having registered their weapons so far, the biggest question from many is,
what happens when hundreds of thousands of gun owners are non-compliant overnight and they're just otherwise totally law-abiding citizens?
State police officials say they plan on posting answers to most questions asked during the hearing on their website. And there are 2 more hearings. There's one tomorrow in Chicago and then one on Monday in Caseyville. And ISP does have to provide answers to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. Those lawmakers meet here in Springfield on Tuesday of next week. And, well, if you still need to register your assault weapon, you can do it online on ISP's website through your FOID card. Reporting live at the Illinois State Capitol, Max Cotton, WGEM News.